We can all agree wearing a helmet is a good idea, right? I don't think that's a controversial opinion. You should protect your brain at all costs. What appears to be more controversial is mandatory helmet laws, at least here in America. So, at the risk of whacking the hornet's nest, let's talk about mandatory helmet laws. Do they make sense? Should we have them everywhere? Or are they encroaching upon personal freedoms? Let's get into it. So what exactly are mandatory helmet laws? Well, in many countries and some states in the United States, there are compulsory laws that require people who operate a motorcycle to wear a helmet, and sometimes the passengers as well. For example, in the United States, there's universal helmet laws, as these laws require all motorcycle riders, regardless of age, to wear helmets. Places like California, New York, and Oregon enforce universal helmet laws. There's also partial helmet laws, where some places might target specific age groups. Like, for example, states like Florida say that you have to wear a helmet if you're under the age of 21. There's also some states that have no helmet laws. Places like Iowa, for example, have no stipulation on whether or not you need to wear a helmet while riding. Then in other countries like Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, and even Brazil have nationwide laws that require the use of helmets for all riders. The rationale for mandatory helmet laws is that numerous studies show that when these laws are enacted, the number of injuries and deaths sustained by motorcyclists go down. So here's a breakdown of how that actually works. When mandatory helmet laws go into effect, helmet usage goes up. Imagine that. When helmets are optional, usage rates can be quite variable and often much lower. Helmets are known to be about 37% effective in preventing death on a motorcycle and 67% effective in preventing a TBI or a traumatic brain injury on a motorcycle crash. Those numbers come from the CDC, the Center of Disease Control and Prevention. There's lots of economic benefits to mandatory helmet laws as well. You have lots of savings in terms of medical costs, lost productivity, and other accident-related costs. The CDC notes that increased helmet usage is extremely economic beneficial to both society and the rider. And you have support from basically every safety organization around the world. The NHTSA, the WHO, all of these governing bodies have come to the same conclusion. Mandatory helmet laws are good. So it seems pretty cut and dry, right? Wearing a helmet is a great idea. Having mandatory helmet laws is an even better idea. The studies clearly show that we get better outcomes when we have mandatory or universal helmet laws. But in the interest of playing devil's advocate and to elicit more interest in this video, what is the case against helmet laws and mandatory or compulsory helmet usage? Well, it's a sort of philosophical idea. It's the idea that adults have autonomy over their choices. Voluntary helmet usage law advocates say that adults have the right to make personal safety decisions such as wearing a helmet. It can be seen as government overreach or infringing on their personal rights. The idea is that just like you can engage in any other risky activity like skiing or smoking or whatever, you should be able to make the choice on whether or not you should wear a helmet. In theory, people have a right to assess the risk of the activities they're taking on, much like free solo rock climbing or deciding to jump on a Turbo Hayabusa. These are obviously risky activities, but adults should be able to have the autonomy to make those choices. There's also some historical and cultural context. In some parts of the United States, for example, motorcycles are recreational vehicles, often seen as something you do on the weekend, and maybe they've not been wearing helmets for time immemorial. I'm thinking of, Harley group rides, that sort of thing. It's not very common. It might be a social sticky issue to wear a helmet. Some voluntary helmet usage law advocates would also say that, well, wearing a helmet makes it hard to see or hard to hear, and I can't breathe in that thing, and they have issues around personal comfort when wearing helmets. And there's again also the idea that there's a nanny state that's being paternal, and if I want to go yeet myself into the sun, I should be allowed to do so. And it's kind of difficult for me to play devil's advocate with these opinions because I just don't think they really hold up. A lot of these ideas fall under the kind of libertarian man on an island sort of thing. We all live and work together. We're all contributing to society, and you taking on a risk of not wearing a helmet while riding a motorcycle is maybe too high for all of us to take on. The risk of a life-altering TBI or death on a motorcycle because you're not wearing a helmet might just be too great to bear on society. When a person dies, there's a huge cascade of knock-on effects. If that person had a family that depended on them, they no longer have that income. There's going to be funeral costs and medical care and all sorts of things. Those kids are going to grow up without parents, and it's gonna be really tough. Also, the point about motorcycle helmets not being comfortable enough to wear is a bit silly. We've made incredible strides in comfort and safety for motorcycle helmets over the last 20, 30, even 40 years. There's ventilation systems, lightweight materials, wind tunnel testing, all kinds of great stuff. You can put a Cardo communicator system and listen to music and not have to blast butt rock out of your Harley Davidson. In fact, wearing a helmet can often improve the ride in many cases. It can reduce wind noise, make fatigue not as much of a big deal, help your visibility, and even help you see at night too. But it's a nuanced issue, right? Personal liberties get infringed upon all the time for the greater good of society. You have seatbelt laws, traffic laws, gun laws. There's all kinds of stuff we do to make sure that we all get along a little bit better. Regardless of what philosophical camp you find yourself in regards to motorcycle safety gear, there is not a shadow of a doubt that investing in a high-quality motorcycle helmet should be at the top of your list when it comes to life on two wheels. Cardo, who we already know and love for their industry-leading motorcycle comm systems, has come up with a way to make any motorcycle helmet safer with the crash detection system found in their new PackTalk Pro. The PackTalk Pro unit contains a built-in IMU that continuously measures and records acceleration and angular velocity. The cloud-based system analyzes the data collected before, during, and after an event to determine if a crash occurred. If a crash is detected, your phone will receive an alert that, if not canceled, will prompt a text to be sent to the rider's predetermined emergency contact. This text will include the geolocation of the detected crash, which can have a huge impact should you become incapacitated during the crash while riding alone. The crash detection feature in the PackTalk Pro is a total game changer for motorcycle safety. And of course, like the PackTalk that came before it, the PackTalk Pro has great sound from the JBL speakers, voice operation, and over a mile of range between riders, and a whole lot of other great features. I've always loved using Cardo headsets, and you can always see them on my helmet throughout the years, and I'm excited to have a little bit more peace of mind when I ride thanks to the new crash detection system. If you want to get one for yourself, follow the link in the description box below and use the code YNCardo for 10% off. Thanks so much to Cardo for the support of the channel. Now let's get back to the show. The AMA, the American Motorcycling Association, has a very interesting take on helmet laws. Quote, "The AMA notes there is a clear distinction between the voluntary use of helmets and the mandatory helmet use laws. Some view the helmet solely as a mechanical safety device, similar to a seatbelt. Many motorcyclists view the helmet as an accessory of personal apparel, and its use or non-use is connected with a chosen lifestyle and their right as adults to make their own decisions. Mandatory helmet laws do nothing to prevent crashes. Regardless of the protective equipment worn, any motorcyclist involved in a crash is at a considerable risk. This makes it all the more vital to avoid a motorcycle crash in the first place, a strategy widely recognized and pursued in the motorcycling community. The AMA is a strong advocate of voluntary motorcycle rider education, improving licensing and testing, and increased public awareness. All are measures that can reduce the likelihood of crashes and improve overall safety. The AMA holds that a common principle should be applied when consideration is given to mandating personal safety. Whether it be for motorcycling or some other risk-related activity, adults are capable of making personal safety decisions for themselves. Society's role is not to mandate personal safety, but rather to provide the education and experience necessary to aid adults in making these decisions for themselves." I personally feel that this is a bizarre take on motorcycle helmet laws. It reminds me of how they teach abstinence in high school and say that the only way to have safe sex is to not have it at all, which doesn't really track. People are gonna have sex. People are gonna crash their bikes. It just happens. Of course, it doesn't matter if you wear a helmet or not if you never crash your bike, but that's just an unrealistic standard to hold people to. Besides, things happen out of our control. Muddying the waters of crashing and helmet usage is not really good tactics by the AMA. In addition, the AMA said the costs associated with the treatment of motorcyclist injuries account for a tiny total of the US healthcare costs. This is from Cycle World. An even smaller portion of these costs is attributed to unhelmeted motorcyclists, the majority of which are paid by privately purchased insurance. In 2000, for example, approximately 1.55% of total US healthcare costs were attributable to all motor vehicle crashes. Motorcyclists involved in crashes represents a minuscule percentage of this figure. Now, there's 2 points there that I don't really agree with, is that if private insurance companies keep paying out for more people, the premiums go up for everybody, so that cost actually is incurred by society. Also, motorcyclists are disproportionately at risk for death and injury on a motorcycle compared to all other traffic. A famous statistic is that you're 26 times more likely to die riding a motorcycle than driving a car. But the idea of something being compulsory seems to be at odds with American ideals of freedom. We really don't like being told what to do, it seems. But it's interesting, the idea of comparing seatbelts to helmets and saying that they're not quite the same thing when, in my opinion, compulsory seatbelt usage and compulsory helmet usage is virtually identical. But I've noticed that attitudes around motorcycle helmet usage and compulsory helmet usage depends on what kind of bike you ride. I've noticed that guys who ride naked bikes or sport bikes tend to kind of wear helmets a little bit more than guys who ride Harleys and tend to be more in favor of compulsory helmet usage. But you might not sense a perceived risk if you're riding a cruiser at lower speeds or bar hopping, and you may just skip the helmet altogether. But what do you guys think? Should helmets be compulsory in the United States? Is this an area that the US is behind the curve in terms of other developed countries? Would you like to see compulsory helmet laws? Or do you think we're better off doing voluntary helmet laws and leaving the choice up to the individual? As a side note, I'd like to add that the official Yami Noob stance is to wear a helmet. Always. I personally would like to see compulsory helmet laws enacted in the United States because I think it would reduce the risk of death and injury on a motorcycle for more people and give us a little bit more credibility in the eyes of other traffic. Motorcyclists need all the positive PR we can get right now, and if helmet usage is going to get us there, I think it's great. I want to see more people riding, more people wearing helmets, and more people having fun on two wheels. Join the discussion down below in the comments or keep it going over on Discord at yaminoob.com. Become a member to support the show and support what we do here. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later. Folks, you made it to the end of this video. That's it. There's nothing else. I'm sure it was a good one. I don't know what happened in it, but I do know that this GSX-8R is ending as a giveaway bike, and I don't want you to miss it. So head over to yaminoob.co and become a member. It's a great way to support the show, and I'd love to see you on the Discord server. So don't miss out. Hit that link down below. But in the meantime, hit this link right over here and keep watching the next video. You're not going to regret it.